Hello, and today I am joined by Jack Price, who has led an all-embracing career in the film industry. Jack, we were just speaking about it. At 21, you directed or shot your first film, and that was with Idris Elba. And you've also worked as an associate director for Ridley Scott, who's also directed the Alien and The Gladiator. And you also founded the Youth Cinema Foundation as well. So my first question today is, what inspired you to take up a career in film?
My father. My father's a film editor, and he's still shooting film now. He shoots documentaries of his own a lot. He keeps on referring to himself as semi-retired, but he still shoots pretty constantly. And I grew up in his edit suite in Soho. Really, from the age of 5, I was working with film. I was playing probably before that. I've been playing with bits of film all my life.
Have you ever worked with him on shooting a film before?
He's cast me. He cast me in his productions. I spent a lot of time on his sets as a runner. I've been on loads of his productions, quite often as an actor.
That's really interesting. Nice that it's kept in the family in that sense. So my second question for you is, what has been the key to your success as a filmmaker?
Always having 5 projects on the go, because at least 3 of them always disappear.
Okay, that's interesting. Have you got 5 projects on the go at the moment?
Well, at the moment, I wouldn't say I'm not only making films. So at the moment, I've got film projects, but I'm also doing a lot of teaching with young people, and I also teach acting as well, screen acting. So I teach screen acting with a lot of the big drama schools, and I've been working with the Bristol Theatre School quite a lot. So I also work in advertising. So I also shoot films for and create films for corporations and companies. And so, you've got, at the moment, it's really a case of keeping lots of different projects running, because everything's in such chaos.
Which sort of leads on to my next question, actually. So it's interesting to, keeping your fingers in lots of different pies in that sort of sense. But my next question is, what are some of the challenges that you yourself has faced, and also the industry has faced during the COVID pandemic?
Okay, so myself, all work was cancelled. I was teaching actually in the Bristol Theatre School, teaching screen acting, and the school was closed down. All the contracts were cancelled. I had other productions coming up, and obviously everything was cancelled. I had theatre productions as well coming up that were with big art galleries that were cancelled. So there's every project was cancelled, and then I set up most things online, and so then people asked me to work online, both creating film content online I've been working on commercial projects, and I've also been teaching online. I immediately set up a filmmakers group where I was teaching. It was really pay what you can, and people joined a group, and we worked every week since March 23rd. I've had an online group working for, what is that now? Coming up to four months, isn't it? We're sort of April, May, June, July. So it'll finish just at the beginning of August. And I've had a group of 10 people making films throughout lockdown. So I've had young people making films all the way through.
That's really good to hear, actually, and good that you've kept busy as well. Would you say that things are getting back up and running now? Now the lockdown is easing in a sense, or would you say that there's still some way to go before the filmmaking industry is fully up and operational again?
Well, I'm talking to Netflix on a production at the moment, and that is delayed. Another friend of mine is a director. His Netflix project has been cancelled and they don't know when that's going to restart. And I'm also working with an editor who was about to go on to a major TV show and has been cutting one of the biggest shows in the UK at the moment. And he has just had his project cancelled and that won't start editing till May. So one of the biggest problems at the moment is crowd scenes. So you can't shoot a crowd scene at the moment, and you can't shoot a crowd scene socially distanced. It doesn't look much good. Yeah. And if you're going to work with the cast and it's intimate and people are in contact, then you have a load of major extra expenses to deal with. Do you put the cast up for 2 weeks in a hotel? So those are the limitations. But it's a very flexible industry. I know that people are, shooting commercials again, everyone wearing masks and socially distanced.
Yeah, so again, that leads me on to the next question is, do you think the nature of media and filmmaking will change post-COVID? Like you say, it will be difficult for a while with social distancing in place. And do you think that it will delay the release of feature films and we will have sort of a period where not much is being released? Or do you think that films will change in order to fill that gap?
I have to be honest, I think that's almost a distributor question because, I think that things were already changing, and I know you as a cinema venue will have seen that. Yeah. I think that, day and date releasing that started, 10 years ago is now picking up a pace. And with, the award seasons, over the last few years before the pandemic, we were seeing, major online networks funding Oscar-winning productions and then putting them out as a token theatrical release. I think that this situation will have increased the level of films going directly online, but I don't think audiences, I think there's still always going to be that desire for a big screen experience. Yeah. But the risk and the cost of a big screen release is always still, your distribution costs have come down because you're dealing with digital distribution instead of film prints, but it's still, it's still going to need to be there, but it's just, I think more people are going to be sending things online. It's a business model still. It's about a business model. So I think that yes, things are going to change. I think it is going to sped up what was already happening.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. And like you say, here, since we've reopened Westlands and our cinema screenings, we have had people come back and they want that collective viewing experience and viewing it on the big screen. So yeah, there is still a demand and a market there for that. So you also work and you are the founder of the Youth Cinema Foundation. Are you able to tell us a bit more about that and perhaps what you've been up to during the pandemic and getting young people still involved in, creating their own films?
Yeah, so I set up Youth Cinema in 2014 and started working with mainly teenagers across the Southwest. And I worked with groups of teenagers in Somerset, but also in Bristol and Bath as well. And I've also a lot of what we do has been working with art galleries or working on exhibition work as well, going as far over as Cheltenham or working with Hauser and Wirth in Bruton, working with the Tate artist rooms, people like that. So creating situations where people can make films, and some of those have been short courses where we've done, you find someone who is maybe about to go on a media course, wants to make a film in a week, or and age ranges going between 15 and 25. And then we've also, I also teach year-long courses with actors. and there'll be filmmakers involved in that, and those will finish with usually around a 20-minute short film. So that's been running for a number of years. Basically this year, obviously that's not the same. So I've been working exclusively with young filmmakers, and in fact, even in the lockdown, some very successful older filmmakers who have been isolated and wanted to get their productions off the ground. I've been working with groups, basically carrying their, throwing difficult questions at them, making sure that their scripts are on target, finding ways in which they can film even in a lockdown. So people have been making films in their houses, starring themselves. That often they've had their parents involved. They've used iPhones. They've been editing on their laptops. They've found bits of music, and they began creating stories that are really super creative. I mean, they've really, against all odds, some people started filming on their daily walk. So the only time they were able to film outside was on their daily walk, and they would walk outside and start filming every day outside and build a film off that. So we're just coming to the end of that with people finishing up. There's obviously also been a lot of animation projects people have been working on. There's been some puppeteering. There's a total mix. So it's been really wonderful to see that. And I've also been teaching acting online, teaching screen acting online, which has been extraordinary. I was working with the Bristol Old Vic Theatre School, and they had about 12 or 13 foreign students stuck in their place of residence in Bristol. And so we've been working through Zoom, and it's been an amazing success. I would never have thought you could teach screen acting online, but you can.
That's really interesting to hear. But when you are on Zoom, you are performing it of yourself the whole time. You're like making sure you're smiling, things, and you're presentable. So
is that what you're doing now, Kathy?
Probably, yeah. So my next question would be, a young person watching this, how can they get involved with the Youth Cinema Foundation? What's the next course coming up, and how do they get in contact with you and join one of the courses?
Okay, well, the first thing to do is go to the website, have a look at what's going on there at the moment. At the moment, because we're in flux and social distancing is in place still, we're not running courses in person, because the work that I teach is full contact, and it will be very hard to work with groups and not have that contact. So at the moment, we're not running anything out in the community, but we have been running things online. And if you go to youthcinema.co.uk, you can have a look there and check out the next courses coming up. That would be my...
Yeah, we'll also put that link as well in the comment section or the information section of this video as well.
Great.
So Jack, what advice would you give to someone looking to make it in the film industry?
Okay, well, I think the first advice, which, I've done a lot of guest lecturing at universities with filmmakers and do a lot of talking and working with people like the BFI. Mm-hmm. The first thing is if there's anything else that you really, really love doing, that you think is really amazing, okay, do that. That would be my first piece of advice, because you only want to go into filmmaking if it's something that you are passionate about, and that passion is going to carry you through, because it's always been tough to make work. And I have a good example of an actress that I was talking to, a young actress, who said, a number of years ago, I have two things I'm interested in. One is I'd love to act, and the other is forensic science, and I like them both as much. Which one should I do? And the answer is totally obvious. Go and do forensic science. Yeah, because it's stable, you know where your money's coming from, and if you love them both as much, go and do some acting, amateur, or acting, filmmaking. These things, the creative arts, are, first and foremost, are difficult. So that would be my first thing. It sounds a bit down, but it's a challenge, really. It's got to be something that you have to do. It's not about it being something that you think would be fun and glamorous. It's something that you have to be involved in, that you have to connect to. Don't get involved, or go and play and do something else as a job. But if you want to do this, make sure it's something you really, really want to do. And then I would say that things have changed. It used to be that, when I started, you couldn't get access to equipment. So you could get a high-8 camera, but I always didn't like the look of it particularly. So, you could get a Super 8 camera and shoot something with your friends. But essentially, if you wanted to get access to higher levels of equipment and training, you really joined a production company as a runner and worked your way up. People didn't care about whether you had a degree or not. They weren't bothered about your exams. What they cared about is whether you could work for the production company and work your way up through the system, which is what I did. And, I started as a runner, then became an assistant editor, then an editor, then I was shooting my own films, and then you go and join, a big production company like Ridley Scott's company, and you're shooting films through that. What I would say is that sounds very glamorous, but there was a reason for that. Is that was the way in which you got access to the big kit, the big budgets. Nowadays, things have changed in that you can get yourself a camera, and you can shoot something on your iPhone. And so what I would say is that I wouldn't recommend that as a route anymore. I wouldn't put that out there as the best route. If you want to make films, if you want to work for filmmakers, then that's still a good route. But if you want to make your own films, then you have, an iPhone or a smartphone of any kind that you can record with. You can get yourself, everyone's got cameras that will work, and sit down and write a piece that you want to make, and make it with your friends, and then go and make another one, and then go and make another one, and then go and make another one. I've got young people that I've worked with for the last few years. Some of them have gone into technical work, having shot lots of their own work, and are now working in London in production companies. And others are people who are born directors and writers who have made film after film after film locally in Somerset, and are now represented by agents in London, and are writing on projects and are engaged in the industry, but they're going in on their own terms.
Yeah, that's really interesting and good advice as well. So what would be obviously you're based in Bruton, which is in South Somerset. So what would you say are the advantages of being based in Somerset for work, and what's your method of finding opportunities for filmmaking while in Somerset?
I wouldn't say there are any major bonuses to being based in Somerset for work. Most of the work is in London. So film happens in London. Filmmaking happens in London and Los Angeles. So there are other bases of production. Toronto's a base as well, New York, but essentially in London, most of the stuff that's going on. Bristol has some shooting capacity. Cardiff has shooting capacity, but most of that, nearly everything happens in London. So Bruton is a place, is wonderful. I'm here because my children are being educated in Somerset, and most of the people I know who are in media here, and there's actually quite a lot of them, they are generally traveling backwards and forwards, either to London or to New York or to Los Angeles. So the Somerset is not I don't think it's a production base. It's somewhere wonderful to live, but not necessarily somewhere that you're going to you're going to be showing a lot of work, or making lots of industry contacts.
Yeah. So expect to travel then if you do go into it. But I
Yeah,
think I'm going to say, even if you were based in London and you had a career in film, you'd still be expected to travel. Am I right?
for sure. And that's one of the problems at the moment, obviously.
Yeah.
So, it's difficult. You know, when are you going to get on a flight to Los Angeles at the moment? And so that at the moment is not possible. So those are the major restrictions. But yes, basically film is, I've spent my life, shooting and traveling. And it's one of the amazing things about filmmaking is that you'll see the world at the same time, unless you're making specifically British based documentaries. You will generally travel all over the place.
Have you ever shot or filmed anything based in Somerset before?
Well, I've worked with a lot of students and shot lots of student films in Somerset.
Yeah.
And that's been great. But have I been here? I mean, I've shot commercials down on the coasts, and I've shot, I'm just thinking of, not a lot. Yeah. I haven't, I mean, I love being here, but it's pretty quiet. I was standing with a very famous photographer the other night, who's a sort of world-renowned photographer, and I was chatting to him about. I said, what do you, what happens in Bruton? And he was saying, not a lot, not a lot. And we, and he's so it's pretty, the reason to live here is that it's wonderful, and I've got great friends here, and that nature is all around us. But as a filmmaker, the exploration, there's also, I think, a real upsurge in films around the countryside. But I haven't shot I've shot, as I say, lots of shorts here with students, but I haven't shot more than that recently. Most of my work has been elsewhere. Okay,
that's fair enough. Right, so we'll move on now to our quick fire questions, which have been entered and asked by our audience base.
Okay.
So the first question is, what are you working on at the moment?
What am I working on at the moment? I've got a number of projects in different stages of development. And I can't talk about what I'm working on at the moment. So apart from my, the teaching work, the stuff I'm developing, I can't talk about yet. So you'll have to wait and see on that one.
That sounds very intriguing. So keep an eye out for Jack Price's work there. Who would you most like to work with?
I think that I think Kenneth Branagh is an extraordinary actor. He's been working with Christopher Nolan a lot recently. I'm working with a whole group of people at the moment looking at a play called Ivanov, which I saw him in at the Wyndham Theatre. I think he's one of our most talented both directors and actors. So he would be very interesting. Yeah, that would be my answer. Branagh.
Good choice. Have you watched any good films recently?
Yes, the films that I've watched recently that just knocked my head off. Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Oh, right.
It's a French film. It's got subtitles. It's absolutely fantastic. It is a queer love story, and it's it's a low budget piece, shot in the most beautiful rooms and landscape, and it's knockout. Yeah, so that would be my recommendation.
Oh, fabulous. What would be your all-time favorite TV series and or film?
Okay, well, I thought all-time favorite TV series at the moment, I'd have to go with two at the moment. The most recent would be Chernobyl, which is like a punch in the face, and you learn so much about what happened, but it's just so beautifully shot, so well put together. The other one would be an older series called Generation Kill, which was written by the writer of The Wire, but it's a mini series again. I seem to quite like 5-episode series, so that would be my couple of my all-time favorite TV series. Did you ask what was my all-time favorite film?
Yes.
I'm going to end up giving you sort of Russian and Eastern European. I mean, that's what basically you're going to get. Would probably be things like the Decalogue, or all-time favorite. I mean, I'm fascinated by performance. So I'm not only, filmmaking is often, people like Mike Figgis have said filmmaking can be like the study of the landscape of the human face. And so I'm fascinated by performance, something like, Blue is the Warmest Color, for which the actresses were awarded Palme d'Ors by Spielberg. So not just the filmmaker, but the actresses were awarded Palme d'Ors. Or a kind of, if I think about the films that have really, the first film I ever saw was Star Wars when I was 5 years old. And so me and all of my friends from primary school are all in film. Like, one of my oldest friends is George Clooney's VFX supervisor. And we all went to school together. Another one of my, my oldest friends is, we're also working in VFX. We basically all saw Star Wars, and we were all sort of smacked around the head by it. We just kind of were blown away and wanted to live in that world. Yeah. And so, I'm really looking forward to seeing Dune. I'm loving all Denis Villeneuve's work. I think that Incendie, Denis Villeneuve shot the new Blade Runner, but he also made Prisoners, Sicario. I think he's extraordinary at the moment. He's so powerful. So I'm looking forward to seeing his Dune.
Yeah, very good. So if you had to sum up the experience of working at Ridley Scott Associates in one word or phrase, what would that be?
Highly competitive.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. And what do you enjoy most about working in film?
What I enjoy is the visioning, the ability to translate a picture and a story that you have in your head and bring it to life, and bring it into the world and be able to show it to other people. Yeah. That's it. The poetry of it.
Well, that's really interesting. It's been great chatting to you today, Jack. And thank you very much for your inspirational words. You can watch Jack's short film Indigo on Amazon Prime. The links will be below, and also do check out the Youth Cinema Foundation. Again, we'll put those links below. But yes, thank you very much, Jack, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Take care, Catherine.